Many years ago, when I first got into what I call outside sales, calling on a variety of prospects and clients to generate more business, I didn't have a lot of training when I first started. So I was fine. I'd get along with people. I could give a presentation that was okay. But my sales weren't where I wanted them to be. And I wasn't in the lead, which is a place I always like to be as a former professional athlete. I always like to be in the lead, if not the winner, the lead pack. So fortunately, I met a sales manager who was an expert in sales. He'd been doing this for 25 years. And he had a wonderful way of connecting with people and getting them to talk about some of the challenges they were facing, some of their goals, some of the opportunities. And I'd watch this guy and I'd think, how did he get that good? And he was with a company years ago by the name of American Funds. He was a regional wholesaler. And he was so well trained. So as luck would have it, he became our divisional sales manager and put a number of me and my colleagues through training. And the number one training program he created for us was Consultative Selling. Now, let me tell you the way I was trained. You show up to an appointment, you pitch your hottest product, and then you wait for a yes or no. That was fine. But I'm a firm believer that fine is really good for China and wine, not for being a great salesperson. And I really wanted to increase my sales. So instead of just showing up and pitching, he taught us really the 5 components of consultative selling. And number one, he said, I want you, when you visit with somebody, to ask some really good questions and then do something that most people don't do. They don't listen. They're not really paying attention. So he said, I want you to work on listening. Take a moment and write this down, please. Write the word listen, that's L-I-S-T-E-N, of course, and the word silent, S-I-L-E-N-T. Do you realize both words have the same 6 letters? Same 6 letters. They're just rearranged. And what the sales manager taught us is we cannot listen unless we're silent. So ask the question, pause, take your time, let them come up with their reply, and really pay attention. Not only that, if you do pay attention, then you can probe and say, wait, Susie, I want to make sure I understand this completely. How do you mean that? Or what did you mean when you said that? And again, listen. One of the most fascinating things I learned from Patrick is to ask the person you're calling on, whether it's a prospect or a client, do you mind if I take notes? People were blown away when I'd ask that question because most of the sales reps I competed with would come in and pitch a product. It wasn't about the client or the prospect. It was about them, the sales rep. So when I would ask folks, do you mind if I take notes? Because I want to capture everything you say, or at least the key points. The prospects and the clients I called on would be like, game on, absolutely, please do. Because now they know I was 100% fully engaged about them. So that was one of the keys, and that was about asking good questions, understanding their goals and challenges. What are the opportunities? So really that was game on, right? Number one, deep listening skills and asking good questions. Secondly, part of that is high value discovery, really probing about what's working in their business, what isn't, where are the gaps, and potentially maybe you can fill in those gaps, but you don't know until you ask. So I had a list of discovery questions. Now, I'll tell you that I had a list of 25 discovery questions. But think about it. Could I really show up at a 15 to 20 minute appointment and ask 25 discovery questions? No, not at all. So it was part science and part gut feeling. After the conversation for the first couple of minutes, I'd just get an idea of where this salesperson was. and what they needed. And then I could just mentally draw from the list I had written down. I wouldn't show a list of 25 questions and say, Barbara, these are all these questions I want to ask. They'd be like, Neil, I don't have time. This is not an interrogation. So I had my list to choose from. And with that, I could probe, as I mentioned earlier, and really find out where they're trying to go. You know, where is their business now? And where are they trying to get to, ideally, right? A year down the road, 2 years down the road. So it's really important to talk about that. Now, third was the tailored outcome. And what I would say is this, Bob, based on what you've told me, I have a couple of ideas for you that will help you get from where you are now to where you want to be in 12 months. And I have a variety of value-added presentations that I created that sound like they may work for you. One is how to get more referrals, really how to ask for referrals. I'll give you a factoid. I called on financial advisors. I was what they call a wholesaler or divisional vice president, but wholesaler is really what we were called. And I created this group of value-added presentations because while my competition was coming in and pitching product, I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to be viewed more as a consultant, as an expert, a subject matter expert, an SME. So with that, I knew most financial wholesalers or financial reps knew the value of asking for referrals. In fact, 87% said they do want referrals. And yet only 23% were asking because they didn't know how. So one of the value-added presentations I created was how to ask for referrals. Not only how, but who to ask for referrals. Because think about this. If you think of some of the clients you have or some of the people you know, aren't there some you really want to replicate? And aren't there others you'd really want to push away? Maybe they're just too negative or too hostile or too down in the dumps most of the time, whatever. If we can replicate some of the people we really enjoy being with, like some of our best friends in our circle, then that's who we really want to grow our business with. So that was one of the presentations I would recommend to the advisors. Another was really how to grow your book of business, how to strengthen client relationships, how to host client events, a number of these things. So again, based on where this conversation went with my prospect or client, I had a number of different scenarios that I believed would help them grow their business or get from A to B. Now, how do we do that? The fourth part of consultative selling is having mini stories. Now, think about this. A mini story is like 1 to 2 minutes long, not 15 minutes. That's too long. That's like watching the news. But a 1 to 2 minute story where you could say, you know, Mark, based on what you've told me, let me share a story about another client I have that was experienced the same thing you just mentioned. Now, what does that do? It shows that I've listened. It also shows that I'm a resource. It also shows that I'm not pitching product. I'm more of a consultant who travels the area, the country, whatever it is in the territory, and talks to some of the most successful advisors in my territory and gain ideas from them because we collaborate and brainstorm and things like that. So with that, I would share a 1 to 2 minute story and they'd say, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I could really use that. So again, now I was viewed as a consultant, as a partner, and not the typical sales rep coming in, pitching product, and moving on. So when you can collaborate with your clients and prospects, share many stories that show, I've been through this before, I have solutions, and we should partner up, it gets you into a whole different mind space in them. Because finally, number 5 is collaborating for future goals. So with that, I always like to ask what I call the R factor. And that is to flash forward. I'd say to the client, let's flash forward 1 year from now. And let's look back on the last 12 months and talk about what would have to happen for you to feel like this was a really successful partnership or relationship. And it was really interesting because you'd see their minds start to turn and the wheels, and they'd say, well, if I could bring in another $15 million in assets, maybe 7 more clients, that would be fantastic. I'd ask, what else? What else do you want? And I'd write it down. And now they're on fire. They're just thinking about so many things they would like to do. And at the end of it, I'd always ask, based on what we talked about, shall we move forward on this? Would you like to hear more about some of the opportunities we have at our company that tie into what you just described? Because you see, now I'm acting in a sense like a doctor. I've asked questions, I've probed, I've paid attention. I didn't provide a prescription right away because I don't know what the challenges are. And then at the end, I'd provide a solution. Maybe a fund, a mutual fund that would tie into what they're doing, or seminar training or presentation training to help them share mini stories with their prospects and clients. So here's the good news. Over the next 12 months, my business improved by 5-fold. I was doing 5 times the amount of business I had been doing. And I wasn't selling anything. I was providing solutions. It was the easiest change in my life as a salesperson, because now we're having conversations. I wasn't pitching anything. And it was really cool because I became known as Mr. Value Added, because every time I made a phone call or I stopped by their office for an appointment, I would add value. It could be a success story from another advisor in my territory who came up with a great idea and said, Neil, feel welcome to share this because it's really working well for me. Even sales managers. I think of a guy named Joe Crington in downtown Boston who was a sales manager of a wirehouse. And he said, Neil, after watching me present, Neil, feel welcome to come in here anytime you want. The doors are open. You don't even have to make an appointment. Just come in. Because every time I did, I was helping his advisors, his team of advisors, grow their book of business. It helped everybody win. Which, by the way, my license plate on this beautiful Mercedes I bought after I did really well in sales, my license plate was win-win. Because my attitude was this, especially with consultative selling. If I help you succeed and reach your goals, won't you want to reciprocate and help me and give me some of your business? I didn't want it all. You know, many of my best clients did business with 3 or 4 different mutual fund companies, but I was one of them. Didn't want it all. I did want a piece of it. And I earned it, and I worked at it really hard because I took more of a consultative approach. So anyway, it worked really well for me. And if you like more information on that, just reach out to me and I'll gladly share it. I give you the 7 tips for consultative selling. It's an easier way to do business, and it's actually more fun because with that you develop more of a relationship. So I'd almost call it consultative conversations versus consultative selling. So I hope that helps, and good selling to you, good conversational selling, I would say, and do all you can to grow your business and develop strong relationships. Because when things go south in business with the economy and things like that, clients will fire people who didn't keep in touch, but they won't fire the people they had the best relationships with because you act as a consultant, as a go-to, to say, I'm always here for you. Let me know how I can help. That's it. So that's on consultative selling. I'll create more presentations going forward that are not too long, but long enough to give you a number of ideas. Thanks for watching. And if you feel like sharing this channel with your friends, please do. Have a good day.